Hola y bienvenido a haQ. 私の名前は Jakob haQ です。Hola en fantasy. Och ni tittar på ett avsnitt av haQ. Full disclosure, I didn't pay anything for the package that the Sensel people, that the people over at Sensel sent me. They basically sent me 6 different layouts, MIDI layouts. It's these things here, these floppy things that you can... So they sent 6 of those and 1 Sensel Morph MIDI controller surface. Right, so I only have 5 layouts here because one of them is still in transit and I'm waiting for my Swedish postal office to tell me that it's ready to pick up. The way I went about this first impression video was as someone who knew almost nothing about the Sensel Morph. So I gave myself about 2 hours to figure this thing out and also record all the material I needed for this video that you're watching right now. Now, the only thing I already knew about the Sensel Morph before doing this was, well, basically what I've seen in beat making videos. So I didn't read any manual and I didn't watch any tutorials. 2 hours, that's all I had, and I followed this list of bullet points, and we're gonna go through them in this video. So let's get into this. First bullet point is point of annoyance. Okay, so I come from a world of laptop and desktop computers, and I also used to have a lot of hardware in the past, but for the 8 past years now, I've been using iDevices as my main central music production and video production hub, basically. So everything goes back into an iDevice. And so the first thing that the Sensel Morph people pointed out to me was the fact that they don't have an iOS app. Now, this is a point of annoyance for me, because if you want to change anything within any of the layouts or make your own custom layout or update the firmware, you're gonna have to connect to a desktop or laptop computer. And this is the case with many MIDI controllers. However, in the case of the Sensel Morph, well, once you've got it all set up, it's not that annoying anymore. But I really want to highlight that my annoyance level, due to the lack of an iOS app for the Sensel Morph, dropped considerably as time went on. Next up, I'll share my thoughts with you that I had while unboxing the Sensel Morph. Okay, so regarding the weight and size. Now, the size of this thing is exactly as big as an iPad, a regular iPad or an iPad Air. And when you turn it upside down, it really does look like an iPad. And it doesn't weigh that much. When you have a layout on top of it, it actually weighs just as much as an iPad. There is one more thing that makes it feel like an iPad, and that is the build quality. So the top is plastic, and maybe that doesn't feel too iPad-y like. Now, what I'm referring to when I say it feels like an iPad is the back enclosure, because it's made out of aluminium and it feels like it can take a beating. Now, one thing I was curious about was whether these layouts were gonna be squishy or not, and it turns out they're not squishy at all. They're kind of hard to the touch, but not without any bounciness to them. Now, I actually do have something I can compare with. You see, one of my most used MIDI controllers is the attaQ Studio from Korg, and it has 8 pads up here. And so the layout feels kind of exactly like the pads on the attaQ Studio controller. So if any one of you watching this have one of these, well, the Sensel Morph surface feels the same way, so you would easily get used to that. What else? Relief. Relief. They all have relief. Some of them more than the others. And I must say that the video production layout feels like it has a bit more relief than all of these other layouts here. Like the piano one. That one actually feels a bit too flat for me right now. But I also want to add that I do think it's too early for me to really judge this thing because, well, I haven't used it that much, and so I'll bring it up again in a future video featuring the Sensel Morph. Okay, so the next bullet point on our list is software and firmware. The first thing I do whenever I get a new piece of hardware in my hands is I want to check if the firmware installed is up to date or if there is a new firmware version. Well, I'm running an old MacBook from 2013, but it's not too old to run the Sensel Morph app, which I downloaded from the Sensel Morph homepage. Now, this went really smoothly and it didn't take long at all. After that, I connected the Sensel Morph to the MacBook and the Sensel Morph app detected it instantly. So the app gives you some information actually, like the device name, the battery percentage, and also the firmware version. I then used a function inside the app to look for a new firmware version to download and install it. And it did. Is that all I have on the software and firmware? Yeah, I guess so. Next bullet point is testing the sensitivity. Now, this is not going to be a full walkthrough of the app because it has a lot to unpack, but one thing I did was I used something called the visualizer in here because I wanted to see how responsive the Sensel Morph was. And so you just open up the visualizer and it shows you, well, look at this. It shows you how you're pressing stuff on the pad. It's pretty brilliant. I like this. I didn't detect any latency when using it like this, and I think this is a neat feature to have in there because you can really see what's happening when you're pressing down on this really flat surface thing here. Flat surface thing? Ugh. Okay, so apart from the Sensel Morph being portable because of its size, its weight, and also the fact that it has a rechargeable battery in it, well, I would say that one of the strongest selling points for this thing is that you can switch out layouts and have it become a different type of MIDI controller or controller altogether. Everything from a typing keyboard to a piano keyboard to a video production layout, and all from just lifting up one layout and putting down another. Now, like I said in the beginning, I had no idea how this actually worked because I didn't watch any tutorials nor did I read any manuals. I wanted to see how I would be able to fare going into this as a noob. But I was able to find the overlay or add overlay page very quickly. After identifying all the overlays I already had here at home physically, well, I was able to add each overlay to the Sensel Morph and then send it to the Sensel Morph. So when you do that, it basically stores overlay settings inside the Sensel Morph. And then all you have to do to switch between these presets is to lift up a layout and switch it out for another. And as soon as you lay it down, it switches to the settings of that particular overlay. Okay. Now, I still don't know how many of these overlays you can store in here, and that is something I'm gonna find out for a future video featuring the Sensel Morph. Okay, so there is this one thing I'm really curious about, the creator's layout, and it's your custom layout. So when you make a completely custom layout, you use this thing and it will load the custom layout you made. Well, what if I wanted 3 different ones or 2 different ones? See, I haven't figured out exactly how the Sensel Morph recognizes the different layouts, but I'm thinking it has something to do with the magnets because I noticed something when putting on a few of the layouts. Some of them sat really well on the device and some of them had a little bit more wiggle in them, as if the magnets were placed in different places. So I'm thinking that maybe the Sensel Morph recognizes the magnet patterns in these layouts and that's how it knows which of the layouts it's got placed on it. Well, what if I wanted to have 2 different types of custom layouts? Is there a possibility to buy 2 of these creators layouts, make 2 different custom layouts, and then switch between them? I don't know, because if it's based on a magnetic pattern, then I don't think you could do that. I really don't know. I'm gonna ask the Sensel Morph team about this, and we'll see what they have to say. Okay, so next bullet point on our list has to do with checking the battery. Now, I want to add something here. I haven't checked how quickly the battery on this thing discharges because I haven't used it enough, but I will bring it up in a future video featuring the Sensel Morph. However, I did find out how you could check the status of the battery charge on the device itself. So if you slightly press the power button on the back, you'll get this LED pattern lighting up. And so it shows a low battery charge to the left and high battery charge to the right. And when I checked the status of my battery through the app, it said it had about 88% battery. And when I checked the pattern of the LEDs, it kind of looked like it was in the 80-90% range. So it displays a fairly accurate reading of your battery percentage. Okay, so next bullet point is iPad and iPhone connectivity. And this has to do with how you connect the Sensel Morph to your iPad or your iPhone. Now, I tried all the ways I could over here, and let me just say that I don't have any USB-C devices, but theoretically, connecting the Sensel Morph to USB-C port equipped iPads and iPhones, well, it wouldn't be that much different, apart from you not needing any extra adapters in between. Now, in the case of Lightning port equipped iPads and iPhones, you do need an adapter, and I have two different kinds. One of them is a USB to Lightning adapter. It's the old kind called Camera Connection Kit or CCK, and I tried it with my iPhone and iPad and the Sensel Morph, and it just worked. I also tried the Lightning to USB 3 adapter, and this one has two ports, one for the USB and one for a charger, and it also worked with both iPhone and iPad. I also did this one test where I was using my Novation Audio Hub 2x4, which they don't sell anymore, so stop asking me about them. Well, I had that connected to my USB 3 to Lightning adapter, and then I connected the Sensel Morph to the USB port on the front, and that also worked. I would be surprised if it didn't. Next, I tried Bluetooth pairing, and this also worked perfectly with both iPhone and iPad. Right, so while testing the connectivity, I did also test how easy it was to actually just connect the Sensel Morph to different apps internally, just select it so that I could play these apps. And I did some tests with Volsynth, for instance, from Kairos. Why? Because it has support for MPE, and so does the Sensel Morph, and this worked. Next bullet point, carrying pouch. All right, so the Sensel Morph carrying pouch. It's a pouch. It's got a pocket on the outside, an inner pocket thing, and then you can zip it up. Okay, so we've hit the final bullet point on this list, which is the point of annoyance after all the tests. And I must say that after testing it, I've grown to kind of like the Sensel Morph. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm starting to really like it. Now, this is a first impression, and so yeah, I'm gonna have to use this thing more, and I want to integrate this into my workflow somehow and see how well it does that, or if it doesn't at all. It's gonna be an interesting time ahead, but I do have a good feeling about the Sensel Morph. And the thing about this thing having to be connected to a desktop or laptop computer, well, it seems like I might only have to do that once or twice, and then I already have all the layouts I want, and I simply just have to switch them out whenever I want something different. That is a very, very strong selling point for me. I can't even begin to emphasize how much I like this, and also the customization option. And when it comes to customization, there is some really cool options out there and some cool stuff that a lot of people have made. And, you know, we'll talk more about that in a future video featuring the Sensel Morph. Drop a comment down below and tell me if there's something specific you want to see me do with the Sensel Morph. I'll try to address it in a possible future video of me featuring the Sensel Morph, if what you're requesting makes sense or is doable for me. That was a lot of uncertainties and maybes in that, but yeah, I'll do my best. So just drop comments down below and tell me what you'd like to see. Now, before you leave, if you liked this video, then why don't you hit the thumbs up, because that's really, really helpful to the channel. Now, another way you could support the work I do here on this channel is to share a link to this video. And if you want to support me in a financial way, you have the Patreon link over here, the PayPal link over there. You can find my music up here. And yeah, that's about it. As usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it. Hello.